Welcome to Light Talk with Jason and Jordan. I'm Jordan. To the right of me is Jason. And today we have a guest. His name is Jared. Jared, would you like to say hello?
Hey everybody, yeah, it's nice to meet you guys, and always good to see Jason again. One of the
Seriously,
best
brother.
people I've ever worked with. Always like the best team player. Can't speak highly enough about the guy.
Same, brother. Same.
Thank you. And Jordan, good to meet you.
You as
I've
well.
watched a couple of your episodes, and we were having fun listening to it. Me and my wife on the road here.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome,
Um,
awesome. Now, Jason, would you like to further introduce our guest here?
I don't even know how to top that, Jared. You were awesome to work with, and I don't even,
Mhm.
I had this build up speech, and I'm kind of stumped. It's really thank you guys for joining us. Um, Here, let me glaze really quick. The main reason I'm giving a little bit of put a little Jared on the spot here. Um, One of the amazing qualities that this man has is that he's one of the most like clearest like critical thinkers I've ever met. We'll be in all kinds of situations, and I mean we'll have like five or six people on it, and for whatever reason, Jared just knew like the clear cut answers and a whole bunch of stuff. And then also when I would talk about stuff that was a little out there, he always was the best way I could describe it is Jared is the nicest critic I've ever met or skeptic I've ever met. Like most skeptics are like really rough with people. He's like the nicest one that can always give me like a really great explanation why an average person or like somebody who looks at things a little bit more critically than I would kind of dissect the subject. So I was just like, Jared, people don't know that like how unique Jared is. So I was like, I have to have him on a podcast when I create one, just so I can
Well,
highlight somebody like that.
I appreciate that, man. That's
Yeah.
really nice of you to say.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem, brother.
I don't think that highly of myself, but I appreciate you saying
Sorry,
Oh,
dude. Dude, you're a freaking gem, man. When they talk about a like a society of 100 people, like I'm like fuck, like Jared might be one of those 100 people I could think of. But
Awesome. Thank you
that's
so
yeah,
much.
yeah, no problem, brother. Um, with that being said, one of those things that I got to learn about you, about you while we were working, is that you're kind of like an avid science fiction reader, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've enjoyed a lot of books over the years, like 2001, Space Odyssey, and a lot of Philip K. Dick, which is what I was thinking about when you guys were talking with Anthony on a couple episodes back. Really reminded me of what first got me into one of the things that I think you might have brought me on to talk about, simulation theory and stuff. But
Correct.
yeah, Um, so yeah, I mean, I love sci-fi stuff. Michael Crichton, I think, is the best that there is. But um, back to Philip K. Dick and what you guys were talking about with Anthony made me think of that was like his interview back in like the 70s was one of the first times I'd ever heard anybody talking about the idea of like being in a simulation and having had experiences from previous simulations. Because in his interview, like people were like, asking him, how do you come up with these stories? And he was basically like, these are visions that I've had from dreams from previous simulations. Like we are in a simulation, and I'm just telling you, with Man in the High Castle, which for people who aren't sure was basically like a telling of the post Second World War if the Nazis and Japanese had won the war, and very very cool. And then like androids or do androids dream of electric sheep? You know, I don't know if that's what the original script for Blade Runner came from. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought stuff like that was really cool. And if you want me to just keep deliberating on about it, I can.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
About
for
go
sure,
for it,
like,
dude.
man.
Yeah, dude.
yeah. So,
I was so enthralled when you first talked to me, like, because I didn't know what I know now, and it's
mhm,
just like, oh, keep going, keep going.
yeah. So, like, when I first got into that, I was like, whoa, this is interesting because I grew up pretty religious. We were Mormon, and so like I'd been exposed to a lot of religion, and I have respect for anybody's belief. Like whatever. as long as it doesn't harm other people, believe whatever you want to believe, and like that's perfectly fine. So I'm not trying to offend anybody whenever I talk about simulation theory and stuff like that. It's just I'll tell you what. There was a paper in the 90s that first like really explained it in like a scientific manner, and I kind of took that and deliberated on top of it my own theories about what it could mean, or what the future, why people would choose to be in a simulation in the first place, because it's kind of an odd idea, right? Because it's not, obviously it's not a perfect world if it is a simulation. But so the one in the 90s that was talking about simulation theory was like the I think it's Moore's law, that microprocessors like double every so years on that can fit into chips. And I mean, basically anybody who thinks about the inevitability of increased believability of all games or virtual reality and stuff like that, kind of, if we don't get you know hit by an asteroid and all life goes away, or if we don't blow ourselves up with a nuclear bomb, then the inevitability, everyone I think should be on board that you will eventually get to simulations or VR stuff that's not discernible from real life. It would get to the point where you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Like, would you agree with that idea?
Definitely.
And so like, if that eventuality does come to place and we don't blow ourselves up or get hit by an asteroid and we will have those simulations, then what would make people think that we aren't in one right now? I mean, considering that, and I heard part of this idea on a Lex Friedman podcast, but they said, like, if you were going to go back in time, what would be more interesting to experience over and over than, a 30, 40-year span of time that so many technological advances take place and so many crazy events take place, JFK, the wars, the advancement of computers and technology, phones and email into messenger, into having a computer in your pocket at all times that can do so many things. I mean, and just the craziness that goes on in the world, like, I think in the future, the reason why I also, and this is my own stuff now, the reason why I also think that this would be something that someone would choose is the idea, like, let's just put a number on it. It doesn't matter, 2300, year 23, 2500. Once you get to a certain point in your life, you would want to, there would not be any need for, like, all of your conveniences would be taken care of. If we continue to advance and we know how people are, especially, well, just people in general, where you want to have a meaning in life, if all of your conveniences are done for you, then what is there to grow off of? Like, what is there to have a meaning for, which we all, people who, are thinking people and, overall good people, I think we all have that, and have definitely had those experiences in our life where we're like, there's got to be a meaning to this. Like, I need meaning to my life. And so if you were in the future and all your food is made for you, you don't have to hunt, you don't have to work, you don't have to do anything because it's all, conveniences are abundant. Wouldn't you feel like the most logical next step would be to place yourself in circumstances that force your mind and head to experience these things that would make you grow in character? Because they would just romanticize about it in the future. They'd be like reading, Steinbeck or Hemingway, or just stories of the past that showed, like, trials that people had to go through that really changed them and built themselves up. And so I think, to me, the thing that makes the most sense is that you would want to put yourself in those situations to grow your character, in hopes that there's in the VR set, it takes away your ability to, recognize what the actual world is that you're in, and only remember the stuff in this simulation until it's over. And then whenever you wake up from the simulation, you go, oh man, I have all these memories and these things that I experienced. I feel so much more fulfilled in my life than I would if I was to not be in a simulation. Let's go again. And you might even put in like little settings like you would into a game where you'd say like, well, let's make it so that I grow up in a household that's like this, or like maybe this amount of wealth or less amount of wealth, or um, you know, difficult neighborhood, or just little things. It could be randomized, or it could be, do you guys agree that that could be a possibility of like a
Definitely.
logical possibility?
Definitely.
Uh, I'm gonna recommend a book called My Big Toe, and I'm gonna leave it at that. It kind of
Mhm.
describes what you just went through, what you just said.
Okay,
But I'm gonna
I
leave
haven't
it
heard
at
of that.
that.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
I
My
have to
Big
check that out.
Toe. Oh, dude. And that's because I just found out about that book a few months ago. So that's I didn't know that when I heard this speech from you, and when
Mm,
I heard about this other gentleman's work. I keep forgetting his name. I believe his name is John. Anyway, when I heard about John's work, and because he does out of body experiences, anyway, he described what you're kind of describing right now, and it all kind of comes together because you came to this as kind of like what I was trying to tell the audience. You have a very unique way of looking at situations. You're very critical. You have a hypercritical. You look at things very well. So when I heard you describe that and I heard this, I'm like, well, this guy's not into the wushu stuff. This guy's a very much like facts, and he even came to this conclusion that this is likely a simulation that we're going through. And back to what you had mentioned, there's a good chance that there's a future civilization that isn't experiencing any issues and are going through these experiences through our vessels, through our lives, essentially.
yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know what's out there. I think that there's lots of possibilities that could be. And if it was any one way, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised compared to the other. But to me, it does. To me, it makes the most logical sense considering what we've learned over our lives about human nature and just the things that we strive for. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a definitely a good possibility. But it's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, it's not something that I go like, oh, the simulation got me this time, somebody cuts me off in traffic or something. But it is sometimes with stuff that happens in the world. Me and one of my buddies from high school, like, he just texted me and he said, yeah, this is definitely a simulation. Like, just some of the stuff that's happened over the past few years. I'm sure we could all think of a few events that were just like, this is this is nuts. How could this actually happen in real life? But you know it's interesting. um and that's, to me, that idea is actually a much brighter idea than what I also think about the future, especially the near future. With this is going to be a downer thing to
I know it's
say.
coming. I know it's
You're
coming.
good, man.
I'm not. I don't want to be a doomer. It's like one of the things I feel like my whole life I've tried to be like more positive, and like when things are not going well, like trying to look on the bright side of things, or trying to be, the one that's, not just down in the dumps. Like, you gotta keep going. It's not going to help anything to blame the world or blame anything else. But this, the last few years that I feel like I've been really observant of human society and people in general, and just watching, which I probably spend a little too much time on X, just watching stuff that's going on in the world. And man, when we were younger, do you remember things becoming? I mean, I guess we weren't paying as much attention. I think we're all about the same age. I'm about to be 40,
Yeah.
and I don't think I can recall like a level of like a decade that I felt like. the degeneracy of society was so rapidly decreasing, in character and stuff. It and on top of that, you've got economic issues that are like mind-boggling. How it's like you're running a household and the house is on fire and everybody's still like watching the Brady Bunch, and you're just like, we gotta get out of this fucking house. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss.
It's
You're good.
okay.
But you're just like, yeah, what is anybody? It's getting hot in here. Like, we got a problem, and it's just like, I could go on about that for a long time. I don't want to, go too deep into that, because that might actually be for a whole other discussion about the financial situation that we find ourselves in as a country and as a world, actually. But I used to be very like on top of this kind of news, and it finally got to the point with just things in your life, and you're like, I can't spend this much time doing like this kind of stuff anymore. Like, I really want to be more positive person and focus on the good things, and not be so doomeristic. But I mean, do you guys feel like that too? Like, it's just this the level of degeneracy of your average people just seems to be going down. I mean, I feel like there's obviously still a ton of very good people and people who are really putting it out there, but I think that they are getting worn down a lot by the world and by the way that people are. And eventually, like, good people start to lose that. It's like you have to actively fight against doomerism and the downgrade in the general way that people treat each other or strangers. I don't know. Like, what would you what are your thoughts on that?
So I'll jump in here then. I mean, there's a few things you made me think of here. Uh, for one, it really seems like over the last like 5+ years, there's a lot of things we needed to look at, and it seems like a spotlight is shining everywhere that we need to see. And even though we didn't pay as much attention, when we were younger, I think it's all kind of rising up to the top now for us to work through, you know. Another thing that I think of with this, my experiences in life, especially recently, I mean, it was like a door open to the multiverse. And, I kind of see this, whether you want to call it a simulation or whatever, it's a pick your own adventure. A lot of things get kind of loud, and you have the opportunity to feed energy to it. And when you do, it grows, you know. But it's really interesting. I think it's been a little while since I paid attention to the news. There was a point where I realized I wasn't being the best parent I could be because I was worried about everything that was happening in the world, and I just kind of
Mm.
shut it all off and didn't look back. And to kind of add to what I was saying just a moment ago, it seems like my personal life gets brighter and brighter and brighter. It's especially on the doomer side of things, you know, there are some people that do want to have that experience, and that's totally cool. There's no judgment either way, but it, I don't think it has to be something that you take on, you know?
Oh yeah. I I want to hear Jason's thoughts too. But since you said that, I have since in the past like half a year or so, like my friends or somebody will be talking and they'll talk about some things that are going on in the world, and I'm like, I don't have anything to say about it. Like, I respect anybody who wants to get too much or get into the news and what's going on currently, but like, I can't really do that in my life anymore. I agree with you. Like, I think it's something that you have to choose whether or not you are going to be involved or not anymore. And for me, there just came to a point where I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I want to be like more of what you're saying, where I turn off all the things that are basically put out there just to rage bait you, and just focus on the good things in life and the things that make you happy and feel fulfilled and complete. And maybe that is, part of what you have to go through, and make that conscious decision if it is a simulation.
Right.
I don't know.
something I want to throw in real quick. Sorry to jump in front of you here, Jason, but
Dude, you're good,
and
dude. I
I
love
I
this,
know
dude. You
Jason's
know
heard
this.
I know
Dude, I
Jason
love this, man.
I know Jason's heard this before too, but you can have two people standing next to each other. One person sees a UFO in the sky, the other doesn't. They're like, "What are you talking about, man?" So I think, that's there's a lot more to that, where you can have two people right next to each other that are in different realities that have a completely different experience. You know.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
All right, Jason, you're up, man.
So, like, as you guys know, I have a complicated answer to everything. So on one hand, of course, it's important to separate yourself from things that may make you get like in a negative state and so on. But it would also be ignorant for you to completely ignore it too. We are dealing with one of the more trying times of our lives, economically, environmentally, socially, you name it. Um, we're in a whole different ball game than we were growing up. And when I was younger, the politics weren't mixed into everything. Now the politics are in everything, and you can't weed it out.
Oh yeah.
And that becomes a battleground after another, because as soon as there's an inclination that you're on one side or another, oh man, do tensions rise up. And so you have to be careful socially about that kind of stuff. And the discourse right now just kind of seems like a little violent, you know. So you kind of have to be you got to be a little temperament about that. Now, to kind of amalgamate everything I was going to say is that you put your energy where it's at, right? So I already have such a complicated life with everything I have going on. So I always try to dumb it down because I don't try to complicate things anymore. So I always get down to my family, my finances, and my fitness. I'm not very fit. I'm not going to tell you guys my finances, but I'm going to stay on top of my family for sure, you know? So I just
Mhm.
try to build a good relationship with them as best as I can, you know, and that's the best that I can do. That's the most important thing for me. The other our hobbies doing this, and my other hobby C5, and doing other little things are things that bring me joy, but they're not important to me like my family. So
Yeah.
this is all fun for me, but when it comes to finances, of course, it's important to take notice, and we're living in the most expensive time ever. So yay.
Yep, that is true. And like I said, I feel like I could go on about a lot of stuff when it comes to the financial issue that we're in. And maybe that's for another day. I don't know, because I
Yeah.
don't want to, dwell too much or anything like that on that. Because it is real and it is a problem. But you know, on my first time talking with you guys, I was hoping um, to have a really fun conversation.
Yeah,
Talking
dude, a
about
lot
the
of fun.
simulation theory stuff. Yeah.
Let me
Um,
ask you a question I've been dying to ask you. Um, because I wouldn't classify you as a conspiracy theorist. Uh, but you are open to those things. Has that term changed to you over time?
yeah, I would agree because I think that there was a meme that summed it up really well. It was like a mother talking to her daughter, and the daughter's like, "Mom, what's a conspiracy theorist?" And she's like, "It's just someone who makes rational observations about what they see and going on in reality."
Okay.
Because that definition has definitely changed. Like I remember I would talk to people about certain things that's going on, and they're like, "Oh, okay, crazy over here." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I've got some receipts for the information I'm saying, but they don't want to hear it. Like, most people do not want to hear anything that's not already kind of like spoon fed by either their mainstream media of choice, or people, I think in general, do not seek things that challenge a narrative that they've already accepted. Um, which I think all of us probably have done, come to a realization that, like, actually that's the best thing that I should do is challenge my narrative, because if I'm wrong, then I mean the thing that matters the most probably to you guys too and to me is just the truth. Like, if it's not what I think, then I just want to know the truth. I just want to see what it actually is. Like, I don't have to be right. I just want to know what it is. And, won't go into a bunch of different stuff, but I mean, I think that there's like levels of conspiracy where there's things where you say like, oh, our government is owned by, outside entities like our politicians. And that to me, based on receipts from uh, lobbying groups and stuff like that, you could say, yeah, that's true. I mean, it might not be, there might be varying degrees of truth in that depending on the politician and depending on the whatever the situation is, but we can all agree to a extent that that's true. And then there's like next level conspiracy theories that's like, I mean, I'm not trying to offend any conspiracy theorists out there, but there's some things that are like, for me, if it is true, there's no way that you're going to find out if it's true. So then it seems not as important as like saying that like this, how was JFK killed? Like that seems to me like it was not a lone gunman, and it, you know, uh, I don't know. I think there's just varying levels of conspiracy, but I agree with you that the definition has changed to me because it's not what it used to be. Whenever we all watched Mel Gibson on that movie
Yeah.
with, you know what I'm talking about? Was it
Yep.
Conspiracy Theorist? Is
It
that the
was a
name of
conspiracy
it?
theory. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think Julia Roberts was in it also. And
yeah. I
Robert
think I think
Patrick.
you're right.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah,
Patrick Stewart. Thank you. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
who
yeah.
Robert Patrick is.
Yeah.
If you don't know who that
um,
is, yeah.
but yeah, things have definitely changed over the years, and I think a part of our journey too is learning to accept the things that you can't change, the things you don't know, and try to focus on what Jordan and you were saying about just the things that you can control and what actually matters that makes you feel good whenever you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. Like, can't get too bogged down with certain things. I mean, because I definitely went through stages in my life where I was like, you know leaving religion for me was like seeing other people who thought about it, and I was always like talking down on them. And as I'm getting older, I'm like, it went from really caring about, um, like thinking that I knew more than other people to not thinking about it much, to having respect for people who believed in something. It's like, hey, that's what gives you comfort in your life, and that's what gives you meaning. Why should I ever try to take that away from you? Like, it's not my place as long as you're not hurting anybody. And, you know, but yeah.
So I'm curious, how was it for you, if you don't mind me asking this, to kind of step away from the Mormonism? I mean,
Oh, yeah. So that was an interesting period of my life for sure, because I wouldn't say that we were devout in the sense of like, there wasn't like capital punishment or like some kind of like serious thing, but it was devout in the sense of like, we do believe in these things and we're very much a part of the church and a part of the society and the group. And you know in some of the Sunday school classes and stuff, they do talk about stuff that I think personally I would not want my kids to feel like they are bad people or have done something that they made us feel bad about. Let's just say, like sexual stuff. It was always very like, um, very frowned upon and very much like repressive to a degree that makes it kind of messes up your psyche, especially as a teenager when you're trying to understand things anyways, and people tell you that you're wrong or like a part of you is evil that you're fighting. It's like the devil that you're fighting and stuff, and it's like, I think it's a lot more natural than that, and you should really be maybe, or I would feel much more inclined to be like, these are things that you're going to experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to learn how to have control over, um, yourself, your feelings, your urges, your desires, and have respect for any potential partner or person that you're going to be, experiencing these things with, any new situation, and understand that they have feelings too that could be affected by your decisions on how you go about it. Like that seems like a much more healthy way to go about it than it was for me in that religion growing up. So we had some bad things happen in our family whenever I was a teenager, and so after that, I think we all of the siblings kind of slowly left the Mormon religion at different varying time frames. But as adults now, it's been probably, depending on which sibling you're talking about, it's been anywhere from 20 to 15, 12 years since we've all left. And there's four of us. So it was an interesting journey, I'll say that much. And I can't speak more highly about the societal like fellowship or community that I was a part of in the Mormon church. I know that it varies depending on where you're at. And, some, I have definitely seen and met some Mormons who didn't have the same sense of like a rural, small town Georgia group had a very much like Southern, nice, helpful mentality than what I've heard from other places and kind of seen before too. I think Salt Lake maybe has a different reputation in the way that it is because everybody's Mormon basically. So they have just humans, different varying levels of the way that people are, and they're just a part of that church because everybody is. I don't know. It was an interesting experience, I'll say that much, and it definitely opened my eyes to because maybe that's a part of why I was a lot more okay with being different than other people growing up and getting older because I was the only Mormon in my grade. Um, and there was another guy who was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was the only Jehovah's Witness in our grade, out of like I don't know 100 something people, and so you're kind of used to growing up being different. I was a theater kid, I did band, theater, chorus, and I was in plays and stuff. And that it's especially in a small southern town, it's like if you don't play sports and if you're not into the thing, then you're kind of an oddity.
Mhm.
So I always enjoyed being around people that were oddities too. Like some of my friends, people growing up, like uh, some of the best people, some of the uh, more different types of people that you can have some of the coolest conversations with that are actually like pulling your mind into other places and trying to explore ideas and possibilities and jokes and everything. And I don't know, I would not have changed any part of it, even the bad stuff that's happened. I'd if they said that you like I've always heard people say that like, well, what if you could become a different person? And I was like, I would not want to be a different person. I like being myself with all my flaws and with all the issues that have happened in this life. Like I don't want to be anybody else. Like it's fun to be me. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying like I think everybody should feel that way about themselves. And anyways, I don't know where I was going with all that, but
You kind of sound like a fully actualized person, but that's my little two
yeah.
cents in there.
Well, I've had to humble myself definitely over the past couple of years, especially the last some things that happened, and I was like, man, you have to like you really you make enough mistakes, and then you go like, oh, I should be quiet more often. I think that's one of the biggest learning experiences for me, is to just like listening to other people and letting them talk and just keeping your thoughts and ideas or things that just for me that's been a really good thing. And I don't know where else I was going with that, but um it's just an interesting life, man.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's awesome, bro. Yeah, man. I came not to that exact same conclusion, but I was really grateful for a lot of my experiences a few weeks ago because I was thinking back about how far I've came as a person, and
Yeah.
I was so grateful for those dark moments.
It's what
Yeah.
makes you this you, good
Well,
character
and
building.
wasn't there like a thing that they asked people from different decades and different ages, and they said like, what was your favorite decade of your life? Like if you could go back and live it, and like everybody that they asked on not every single person, but the majority of people all said the decade that they're in right now. Like it didn't matter how old they were. It didn't matter, they because you understand so much more about yourself, and you hope to grow at peace with yourself. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a beautiful thing to hear, and I agree for sure. As much as I regret some things that I've done and said in my life, I don't think I'd take them back and relive any other part.
I know
What do you guys think?
when I look backwards, even the rough times, there was so much growth that happened during then. It's not fun as you're going through it, but, when you're on the other side, it's definitely worth it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to try to make it as quick as I can on that point. Some years ago, I had an experience, and I saw in that experience, I saw the people that I hurt, uh, and it really tore me up because when you're faced with that, it changes you, of course. And if for the people who are out there I've ever hurt, if they ever see this, I'm sorry. You know, Anyway, um, and through that, I got lucky enough that I got to visualize that and understand that my actions had consequences. They were a lot deeper than I understood. And so, with that being said, like I'm on. I don't even know how to keep going with this. But that's how I experience life a little bit different than everybody else. Essentially, is that something has to be shown to me in an extreme manner in order for me to understand it better than just somebody telling me. Is the best way I can summarize that. So when I saw
Yeah.
the pain in others and I saw what I was doing, that made me understood how I had to treat other people. And I just always want to do better than that than what I've done in the past, and that's the best that I can do.
Amen to that. I mean, I agree. There's
Yeah.
things that you do, and you're just, I'm sorry for the things that I've done to people, and hope to atone for it in time. But yeah, um, go ahead.
I was gonna be like, let's get back to a lighter note.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
have
man.
fun, dude. What do you do for fun, Jared?
Uh, well, um, actually, I don't know. I mean, I I I do play some instruments and stuff, especially whenever I'm trying to, like, it's a therapeutic thing to do, like piano and guitar and stuff. But to be honest with you, I haven't been doing it as much, and that's one of the things that it's one of my goals to get back into, um, practicing more. And I really like, honestly, like listening to podcasts or books, and yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, right now, me and my wife are trying to save up for a house, so that's kind of like taking extra call sometimes, and feel like I'm working a lot. But um, you know, I don't know, man. Like, I wish I could say something more interesting than that.
So you're
That was
normal,
Yeah,
cool,
Jared.
man.
So-
yeah, 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 exactly.
dude, man. So one of I always bothered you, or I always try to twiddle in your ear, chirp in your ear about my little hobby. What is the thing that somebody like you would convince somebody like you to take ET seriously?
Um, uh, so see, I don't have anything like against any of these ideas or things. It's just that, like, to me, it does seem like the government releasing certain information and stuff always seems to fall around the same time that some other story is out, that seems like they're trying to distract us from this other story. Like, is it not always like some new breakthrough or some new thing that they're doing in Congress and interviewing somebody? Seems like there was always something big that we were all just talking about, and now a lot of people are talking about this, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I think it's one of those things where you only have enough bandwidth in your brain to think about certain amount of topics. And for me, that topic is just not one of them that is necessarily one of the ones that I want to use the small amount of bandwidth that I have left to spend that much time dwelling on, you know. But it's interesting. I love listening to you talk about it when we were at work and everything. And you know, it is. I like mind bending things for sure. I mean, like, have you read 2001: A Space Odyssey? Either one of you?
Nope.
Did you know I
Okay.
don't read?
Well, or I mean, the movie just didn't really encapsulate it, but like the idea of like once you get further in the story and the idea of for any, I'm not ruining it from anybody by telling you this because it's at the
We've
beginning of the
seen it,
story.
yeah.
But the obelisk is the idea that it like uh, enhanced the monkeys on the planet and gave them the ability to increase their ability to grow and learn knowledge, and it's kind of like a catalyst that sparks in their brain to eventuality and become what we know of humans today and stuff like that. So I mean that kind of stuff is really cool, and the idea of aliens is very interesting. It's just I think that the stuff that they spoon feed us, you know, these days, and I don't know. I like listening to you guys talk about it, but
Thanks, man. So, like one of the things you didn't say openly is that you kind of notice sometimes patterns that I would say that would kind of cause mistrust in institutions. Correct?
yeah. Um, I mean, I think that anybody who's paying attention already knows that probably that you just I I think the first thing that I think of whenever anything is spoken by the government, doesn't matter which side of the government it is I think, what are they trying to propagandize me into believing here? Like that's my first reaction. Like this is propaganda. Like what's the end result that they're going for here? And then take whatever grain of truth from what they say afterwards. But um, yeah, I don't have any faith in uh, government officials, basically.
I'm right there with you,
Uh,
man. It's another reason
yeah,
why I don't pay attention to them.
yeah, no, I agree. Like, I realized that I was kind of wasting my time listening to what's going on, and that it was just mostly propaganda. And so, yeah, just over the years, I'm looking forward to becoming an old guy that just has some land and has little projects, and I don't ever watch or pay attention to anything that's going on anymore with the
Nice.
world because it just makes you. It's just there to. It's like you're falling into a trap to be rage bait into being upset about something, and it's like you know we're gonna give ourselves cancer by stressing out about stuff that in the end is not gonna affect you much anyways. You know. I don't know. But Jordan, what are you thinking?
Kind of right there with you. I mean, just kind of a feeling I have. Uh, when open contact happens, I don't think it's going to be something that, is channeled to us by, government entities. I mean, I just kind of have the feeling, it's already happening and it's happening through people, like what Jason and I
Hmm.
experience and many
Yeah.
others. And I think that's really cool, man.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean that. I don't know what the Atlas thing is that you and Anthony were talking about. By the way, Anthony, that guy's a great guy. I love
Yeah.
working with Anthony. One of the best people to work with too. Shout out to Anthony. But
Correct.
I'm not sure about what the Atlas thing was because, like I said, I haven't really been paying attention. But I do think that like that video and the guy that was talking about that whatever that was going like super speed that can't be explained by physics. That is, you know, pretty crazy. I don't know if that was the Atlas thing. What is for those of us in the audience that aren't familiar with it? What was that? Is that the same thing or is that a different?
Let me pop in real quick. I think he was actually. It may not be a thing that was physics, or I mean, that was something that moved fast. It was some. It was creatures in the forest that were moving the trees, and you can hear
Mm,
them, and you can kind of see like distortion in the air, if you will, but you
mm-hmm.
couldn't see what it was. And it was scary because it was, I believe it was in North or South Carolina. I could be totally making up that last part. I can't remember.
Oh,
But
okay.
he had asked about that. And then the oddities about we talked about 3 hour Atlas, which is an anomaly that came through our galaxy. Is it out of it yet, or is it still in our solar system? But there was so many weird things that happened with that, and everybody was just really curious what that was. That was a huge thing this past year. But I still don't even
Okay.
know what that is.
I'll have to look into that after our podcast or this podcast is done and see what that's all about. But uh I do have my wife waiting on me to get back on the road. So
No
I
problem.
told I told her I'd try to make it just 20 minutes, but I don't know. It feels like it might have been a little bit longer.
It's all right,
But
brother. It's all right.
yeah.
Well, man, it was
But
very
it's
nice to meet you.
you too,
Definitely
Jordan.
enjoyed
Yeah.
this chat.
Yeah, really fun. Like Anthony said, anytime that y'all have like a spot that you need filled or something, even if it's last minute, just let me know. It's always fun talking to you guys. Jason, great to see you again.
It's great to see you, brother. Um, I guess I'll close it up here. Jared, thank you for coming on. Jordan, thank you again, sir. Thank you for always being my number one. Thank you, audience, for listening in. If you guys, if you have time, can you please like and subscribe to the channel? It'll help us out a lot. Also, if you can also, if you're interested in QHHT or SCHH sessions, we have Jordan there under in the description for his services as well. Um, if you guys want to help us out in any other way, please read the description, and I'll let you know how to go to link to our PayPal link or to our PayPal account. Anyway, I keep forgetting how to close this, guys. So you guys have a good
Doing
night,
great.
and bless you guys.
See
Good
you
night.
guys. Thank you, you too.
See you.